There we go. Okay, so it should be recording. Fantastic. My name is Rachel Morton-Young. I'm the host of the evening, and this is Darla sitting next to me. Darla is the fantastic guru that is Expats Utrecht. She started Expat Utrecht and is the initiator of this event. So do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Darla?
Yeah, well, 4 years ago, we organized the same thing in person at the Stadhuis. And this year it didn't work out the way we wanted to do it in person. But we're so thrilled to have all of these representatives from the political parties joining us this evening, because many of us can vote that are not quite fluent in Dutch yet. And yeah, if we've been here for 5 years, if we're from the EU, we can vote, and 18 plus. Those are the, and registered in the Netherlands for at least 5 years. So many of us can vote, but we're a little bit unsure. So we're actually a constituency that can be influenced. And so we want to hear from you tonight. So yeah, let us know. Why should we vote for you? We're really excited to hear from the parties.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, we got a screen share there that popped up. It works. Yes, so exactly. I mean, it's very, very difficult to know. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have received one of these in the post, your stembiljet and your stempos, and it's like, who on earth do I vote for? And, you know, there's a lot of different parties and they're all, you know, got lots of different pledges and lots of different information to give. And it can be a bit of a minefield. And especially if you don't speak Dutch, that's also a challenge. So we're really, really happy that tonight everybody has agreed to come speak English and just explain in English to all of us what they mean for Utrecht and why you should vote for them. And the idea is at the end of this session, you're going to have a much more informed choice and be able to make a decision on who you're going to vote for. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each party one by one to introduce themselves very briefly and to tell us who they are.
The house rules about the format of the event too.
Yeah, I'm going to do that as well. Yeah, no worries. So what I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves. And that's what we're going to do first, is each party is going to get 3 minutes to introduce themselves. That'll take a while because we've got quite a few parties and we're really excited about that. So I'd like to thank all the parties for responding and for agreeing to be here tonight.
Their chats.
Yeah, the questions in. Yeah, exactly. Got it all in here. It's all good. It's I've got like
so they can be doing it while they're
presenting. Yeah, exactly. No, that's perfect. We've got the chat open throughout, and that is for you to be able to put any questions you want into the chat. And also, like I say, if you've got any technical things, like you were saying, telling me my microphone's too loud or too soft, that's also good. I'm keeping an eye on the chat as well. So if you've got any questions for the parties, pop it in the chat. And what we'll do is we'll come to those later. We want to answer as many questions as we can tonight. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat. Also, I'd like to invite the candidates. If you want to share some information, if you've got a link to a website or some further information, especially in English, also feel free to use the chat for that so that we can interact that way. If you want to talk, you can raise your hand, and there's a way you can do that. There's a little button that says reactions. So at the bottom of your screen, you've got mute, video, etc., chat, and then next to on the right hand side, sort of next to all those buttons, you've got a little smiley face and a little plus sign, and it says reactions. If you click on there, you can raise your hand. Okay, so if you do want to ask a question at the question and answer session, then please feel free to raise your hand. If you have a technical issue throughout, or you have a problem or whatever, feel free to pop it in the chat. You can also send a private chat to the tech person, okay? So it is actually registered as tech, you'll be able to see. So just type in tech and you'll see him, and just send a message in there. So if there are any questions, please put your hand up. Or for example, say one of the candidates asks a question, you know, and wants to ask an opinion, you can also, with the reaction, put a thumbs up. So just so you know, that's in the reaction field. If you've got any specific questions on how things work, also feel free, you can send a private message to the chat function at the bottom and you can put things in there. And it's great to see that already the candidates are putting information in the chat. So this is perfect. It's working really, really well. We can also save the chat as well for later on. and you can feel free to save the chat, so you've got all the links in there. Perfect. Have I forgotten anything, Darla?
Also that we're gonna, for the candidates, about answering the questions.
Yeah.
So actually, it's really important for us that we open the floor after the rounds of introductions to expats, to the internationals, to ask questions. That's like half of our platform today, or our program, I mean. So we're going to try to make it fair to the parties, and that each party can answer at least twice the questions. So we're going to really, try to, and if you really have a passionate feeling about one of the questions, then you want, raise your hand during that question for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what the hand raising thing is. And yeah, and we've got a checklist here and everything to make sure it's fair and that everybody gets a word. So that's the idea of it. So that's perfect. And thank you so much for sharing all the links. I would encourage everyone, like I say, to save the chat, have a look at the links as well. Without further ado, then we're going to have the introduction round that should last probably about an hour, given that we've got a lot of candidates, which is fantastic. And I'd like to welcome first of all to the stage, Bijeen. So welcome, Odak.
Oh, thank you very much, Rachel, and the organization that made this possible. I'm really honored even to be part of this this platform, because I didn't expect this. I didn't even dream of this. So for me, that in itself, that's what Bijeen has also in a way brought to the table. And I think it's high time that people like us also just bring another voice, and that's the voice that we are bringing, literally. And I'm really, I mean, I look at myself as an expert, as an Utrechter, and also, as just a citizen, and just to share this platform is just an unlikely journey. And I'm really looking forward to really share more about Bijeen. There is a fact that I'm just standing here or sitting here in itself is just unbelievable, and I'm really, really excited just to know and to learn and to hear more from what other my colleagues are going to offer. I'm number 7 in Bijeen, but there are more people. We're gonna, I'm looking forward, really excited. And more we'll say, more we'll talk about, more we'll share. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And once more, I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Odak. And just one more question. So do you want to your introduction? Because you've still got a minute.
Share a bit about what Bijeen stands for.
Yeah, what does Bijeen stand for? What does it mean?
I think I would want to go deep into that, what Bijeen stands for and what it means. But first of all, what Bijeen means to me is quite a lot. One of the things that Bijeen stands for, actually, Bijeen is actually against any form of discrimination, not just black and white, not any form of discrimination. And that really speaks so much if you have lived in a setting where you feel like a second-class citizen. And this is all connected, whether you talk about housing, whether you talk about education, how structural racism, you can say that the structure of racism does not exist, whether in institution or whether on system or generational. So there is a way that a lot of people have been left behind, and Bijeen is coming out to tell people, really speak out, stand for what you believe in. And really, there can be so much going on, but the moment we come up and express ourselves, not just to be seen, a big part of population here will be involved socially, economically, and even politically. In this case, like myself, it's high chance that maybe I'm not even gonna be on, let's say, on the commentary when eventually it's over. But this is an opportunity. Today is in my neighborhood. Actually, I saw what Bijeen stands for. Young people were asking me, where's your posters? We want to hang it. I live in Lombok. And I realized, that is Bijeen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Odak. That was really, really interesting. So just to summarize in 2 words, against discrimination. I think that was the thing that I jotted down that was probably the most thing that stand out. Thank you so much. And now I'm going to ask the Christen Unie Utrecht to come and introduce themselves.
That was such a wonderful introduction to this night, and I wanted to share some slides to make it a bit more visual what we stand for. My name is Sebastian Westra. I'm number 5 on the list of the Christian Union. Am I allowed to share something?
Yes, please do. You've got full permission. Yes, you have permission to share your slides.
To provide a political landscape, because that's ever so helpful for everyone who's watching at home. I'm so sorry we cannot meet in person. It would have been so much more fun to do so with drinks afterwards and to have a firm, passionate debate or exchange of points of views and passions we feel firmly for the city, to enlarge and to enhance the city. So let me see if I can share it. Desktop, share. Let me see. Can you see this?
Yes, that's perfect. We can see that.
Okay, wonderful. So I added this political landscape because then it's helpful to see for all who might not be very well informed where exactly everyone is. So you have this political axis like progressive and conservative, and from left to right, well, left points of view and right points of view. I'll come back to that in a sec. We've had the honor to contribute to a range of important issues in the past 4 years, being part of the coalition together with D66 and Green Left, GroenLinks and D66. And our program for the coming 4 years is summed up by our motto, to do right and to do right together. And that's something you see in the back. It's mirrored, I'm sorry about that, but it says samen recht doen. And we work really hard for our ideas to contribute to the expansion of the city and the quality of life in Utrecht. And governing is as well a privilege and a big responsibility. And the city has made such big steps in the past year. And to do better, we really need to maintain the fields of sustainability and welfare. And we want to continue to do right together. So words are meaningless if we don't act upon it. And we mentioned right because every person counts, like Odak just mentioned, that without discrimination, we're really seeing each other. And we want to fight injustice together because nobody should have to go through life alone. And the government only does its job well if it does it together with its residents and with all these NGOs involved and people of interest. And our first priority is a society that takes care of each other, with the government as an ally for those in need. And secondly, we think that more sustainable choices are needed and creation can blossom through and with people. And you see here a few visuals, a few pictures. You might have come across these, you might have read about their names, and I want to introduce you to them because it might make more sense to you. So within the seats, we have the council of 45 seats. You have 2 seats of councillors. First of all, Jan Bijmenga, he's been there forever and ever, almost 12 years. And then you have Rick van der Graaf, who only just succeeded Rachel Streefland, who succeeded Maarten van Ooyen, because he was promoted to be in the national cabinet as Secretary of State. And Rachel Streefland is now elderman, or better said, elder lady, because of course that's how we do it here in the city executive board. And she has a mandate. She holds the mandate of well-being, sports, asylum, and integration. And you might have come across these names and these pictures. So that's who they are. So if I turn to the second slide, you see that if I look at the political landscape, that the ChristenUnie is slightly in the center. And that's because of 2 reasons. Well, one, first of all, we're in the left upper corner because we're very left on social, economic rights and issues. And we're slightly more to the center because we're moderately progressive on medical and ethical issues. So that's where it comes from and why we're one of the few who are placed in the center. So it's, of course, like Odak said, quite impossible to give a complete expose of what we stand for, but to do it very briefly. So do right together stands on 2 pillars, like the first of all is the community co-reliant and resilient, and secondly to be jointly responsible for creation. And we do that with these views. We believe in a cooperative sustainability and rather than self-sustainability. We aim for a green city that takes care of heat stress, more biodiversity, clean air and cooling, a city where everyone can participate and everybody has the chance to just simply be diverse. Climate justice is what we stand for and what we aim at. Everybody gets the chance to live a sustainable lifestyle, and the government helps those who need help to do so. And finally, we're living to connect. We don't just want to build houses because we have a housing crisis, but we want to firmly establish and re-establish community and a community spirit. Thank you ever so much for your time, and I wish you a very lovely evening together with all the political, insightful information you get. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much. And if I had to summarize that in a few words, I picked up do right and do right together. So if anyone's making notes, I think that in a nutshell is do right together.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're now going to go backwards in the alphabet because I missed Belang van Nederland because I missed them at the sound check. So my apologies. So would you like to say I do know my alphabet? So we're going to go to Raphael from Belang van Nederland. 1 second. We're just going to get you spotlit. Yes, wonderful. Thank you, Raphael.
Thank you. But do you hear me?
Yes, we do indeed.
Very good.
Wonderful.
Then this is a sound check. Well, thank you for inviting. My name is Raphael Klein from Belang van Nederland, which stands for in the interest of the Netherlands. And well, also you live in Utrecht. Utrecht is one of the best city in the Netherlands, so to say. It was always a thriving trading city, medieval city with lots of entrepreneurs, craftsmen, and traders, and they always formed the backbone of this city and always have done and always will do. So, for example, Wi-Fi was invented in this region, and nowadays we've got the best vanilla ice cream. So these are entrepreneurs, businessmen who make Utrecht a very fun city to be in. So I would like to highlight 2 points here. That one is entrepreneurship, as I just mentioned, and also the other one is citizen participation. Nowadays, our institutions, political, financial, economic, are facing enormous challenges, and we think they're hardly capable of dealing with them. So, for example, polarization is on the rise. Financial crash will come in a few years, which will be very bad. Citizens feel excluded from government. So these are really huge problems. And we think the solving of these problems can best be done at the local level. Here we have to build resilient institutions, strong institutions, adaptive. So there we have a very urgent need to develop strong and good institutions at the local level. So we stand for entrepreneurship, the interest of small scale businesses. They have had a very hard time the last 2 years. And they provide so much benefit to the local community. For example, small shops, they offer jobs, they offer a schooling place for an education place for children, but they are also a place for people, for the elderly to meet. And they are really facing lots of threats from, for example, the bigger companies as Amazon. So we like to stress the importance of local small-scale businesses, entrepreneurs, and self-employed people. On the other hand, we like to introduce a more, efficient government, in the sense that we would like the government to think more like an entrepreneur, to be efficient, to be careful with spending money. There's lots of money coming in each year in Utrecht, 1.5 billion, and I think there's not much incentive to spend that very well and very careful. So I think an entrepreneur mindset can help in being more effective. One of the elements in that is giving citizens more influence, a bigger role in this decision making, in policy making, because the knowledge is on the streets, in the people, and they know best themselves to when policy is effective or not. And there are various solutions for that, but it's really important to close the gap between citizen and the local government. So last but not least, this entrepreneur mindship, in that sense, time is running out and we should talk less, maybe drink less coffee, but we should get things done and maybe drink champagne afterwards. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Raphael. What we got from that in our small nutshell was entrepreneurship and citizen participation. So that was fantastic. Thank you very, very much. We're going to go very quickly now to the next candidate from D66.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for offering this opportunity. First of all, to all the internationals, I want to compliment you on the courageous step to start a new life in a new country and city. Having lived abroad myself for 6.5 years, I know how enriching of an experience it is, but also that it can be challenging, being away from relatives and friends and all that is familiar, especially during Corona. I hope life in Utrecht has been treating you well and it feels like home away from home. D66 is the Dutch Progressive Liberal Party that strives towards society with freedom for everyone and nobody left behind. We are the first party with a strong and serious focus on European cooperation and years of experience in how to work towards that. While other parties see a threat in internationals stealing jobs and houses, we embrace the international community in our city. Because we acknowledge that a diverse and international community enriches our city and country. Currently, we're the second largest party and part of a coalition with GroenLinks and the ChristenUnie. We have 10 council members and 3 aldermen. In the last 4 years, we have worked on a 10-point action plan for internationals, and Darla herself was a contributor. We committed ourselves to improve housing for internationals. The Expat Center, which was an idea of your community, is now the Welcome Center. And the further development of Utrecht Science Park has been, is, and remains a focus point. But what are we going to focus on the next years? Of course, climate and environment. The climate crisis requires action. We realize that there's no cherry picking when it comes to a crisis like this and are ready to make the choices to deal with it. Then there's another crisis, the housing crisis. The city is growing, which is a good thing, and it's a given fact. But this growth needs to be managed. We are committed to building within the current city boundaries, but also looking at the possibilities outside these boundaries with green energy solutions. We are a party that offers this two-pronged solution to the housing crisis, but also to the climate crisis. And of course, there's something that we find very important, that is equal opportunities for all. Honest opportunities lead to equal opportunities. And no matter where you're born, where you're from, or where you're currently living, it should not affect the opportunities you get in life. Last but not least, we want a sparkling city. A flourishing city is a city in which citizens not only just work and study, but also can enjoy themselves and in their time off. Culture, wine, dining establishments should be accessible to all. So when you vote, you might want to vote for us because we have representation on all levels of politics, from local to EU. With that, we are in a strong position to make things happen beyond the scope of local politics. Having been an expat myself, you can expect that I can relate to your specific situation as a new Utrechter. And we will take your interest into account. You're always welcome to approach us and me with questions or suggestions, because we like to work with every Utrechter to further build and improve our city. Thank you.
That was lovely. Thank you very, very much, Anita. I wrote down a lot of things here, but I've got here Dutch Progressive Party with focus on climate, environment, equal opportunities for all. Those were a few little bullets I made. So thank you very, very much. Just for anyone who's paying attention, I don't know my alphabet because CDA becomes before D66. That's just because the printout I have in front of me is out of date. And I do apologise. We're going to come now to CDA, to Jantien Swinkels, and my apologies for that, Jantien. And here you go.
Thank you, and no apologies needed. Not a problem at all. Thanks for this opportunity, and good evening, everybody. My name is Jantien Swinkels. I'm the #1 of our party in Utrecht, and I'm really proud of the list of candidates we have for Utrecht these elections. Yeah, let me begin by, I don't have a fancy presentation. I'm sorry about that. I didn't know it was the thing to do for tonight, but I have our program here, and you can find it on our website. I shared in chat, and it says here, voor een stad op mensenmaat. And I think the best way to translate that is for a city on a human scale. I think that is the point we would like to make on a social side, but also more on the spatial side of the city. So how can we make sure that people feel at home in Utrecht? People feel connected to the city, towards other people, especially when you're not from here or you're living here for a certain time or perhaps for a longer time that you have anticipated on. It's important that you can have the ability to contribute and to share experiences with other people from Utrecht and be part of the networks that we have here. That's so important, especially in the Corona time we have noticed. So I think loneliness is a topic that we really want to address as a political party to make sure that everybody is connected. Another thing that we always work on as a party is the whole bureaucracy of the municipality. So how can we make sure that people understand the rules, that we are having our communication in the right place, that participation also for non-Dutch speaking persons is really accessible. Still a lot is to be done here in Utrecht. It's really not that good at the moment. Another point that we have is that we focus on sports and culture and all kinds of facilities in our neighborhoods, but also to make it part of something bigger, like competitions or more on the European side. How can we make Utrecht a bit more special? And I think that's also something of our party. We are a pro-Europe party. We focus on sustainability as well. So we are really looking into the future. And I'm really excited to hear from you what is going on in your lives and how we can collectively work on enhancing that for the next years. So thanks again for the opportunity and hope to hear from you.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much, Jantine. I made a few notes there, but what was it? For a city on a human scale. That was what I really like. I think that sums it up in a nutshell. For a city on a human scale. Thank you very, very much. That was very interesting. And next, then we're going to go to Utrecht. So we're just going to make sure I can get you in Beeld. Utrecht. I'm just looking to see where you are so we can spotlight you. Where are you? There we go. Lovely. Thank you very much. And over to you, Gert.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to say something to you all. Welcome here in Utrecht, first of all, because indeed, as other speakers already said, the expats are one of the reasons that make Utrecht very diverse, and that is very essential for a healthy city. Utrecht, to sum it up, stands for a new local civil policy. And to sum it up in one sentence, our slogan is people and neighborhoods placed at one. The problem at that moment in the city is that the policy of the current city council is one of the reasons that make the city, living in the city, unaffordable. It's one of the reasons. The city council at the moment pursues, for example, at this moment, an extremely unhealthy growth of the city. And it does not really listen to the people. We know many people and organizations who are grumbling about that. And ignores also the dichotomy in our city. And we feel that it needs to stop. And therefore, in our program, we have four, as we could say, main objectives. First of all, affordable living everywhere. That requires stricter price requirements for the whole housing market and priority for Utrecht residents who work, study, or want to continue living here. Our aim is also an undivided city. All neighborhoods are affordable for all incomes. That's a high priority for us. The second thing we aim for is Utrechters more in control. Leave more to people themselves. They have the knowledge, they know the neighborhoods. Listen to them. It's not been done at the moment enough. So we feel that give Utrecht residents more influence with, for example, citizen councils and binding referendums on important topics, and strengthen citizen and neighborhood organizations. For example, invest in local communities and in cooperatives, local cooperatives. A third thing of our objectives is a right for everybody for their own place in the city itself. So that means value the differences between people and actually tackle effectively discrimination, because discrimination is always there at the moment. That means priority for mixed neighborhood schools and always a guarantee for internship. Also neighborhood jobs for long-term job seekers and affordable business spaces for local neighborhood entrepreneurs, with the support of neighborhood officials and a personal counter at a transparent municipality. Fourth and last objective, neighborhood growth. Small-scale densification in the city, with an urban growth that matches with existing neighborhoods. So from the neighborhood, you can grow, not the other way around. And if you do that, only then we can acquire clean air, a quiet and clean residential streets, more green in the city, and completely sustainable city. Otherwise, that cannot be done at the pace we do it now. So to summarize, it must and can be done different in the city. That's our main slogan always. And Utrecht goes for what Utrecht politics at the moment leaves behind. We are dominantly political homeless for the time being. And as in Utrecht, we stand for our city, independent of any national party. So for you, our advice would be stem in Utrecht at 16 March at the next elections. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much, Gerard. And just to summarize that, a new local civil policy, people and neighborhoods as one. And but actually, I prefer this. It can be done differently. Is that a good summary? It can be done differently. I think
it must be done differently. Exactly so.
Oh,
yeah.
There we go. So this is what Één Utrecht stands for. We are going through the list. And next, I'd like to invite GroenLinks and Mahar to tell us why we should vote for GroenLinks. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Mahar Fatal. Actually, I won't tell you to vote for GroenLinks. I'll just tell you about GroenLinks and tell you to vote either way. I'm GroenLinks' number 2 for the coming municipal elections, and I'm really happy to be here to talk to you about what you find important in making your decision come March 16th. And GroenLinks has been the leading party in our city council here in Utrecht for the past 4 years. And GroenLinks actually translates to green left, which perfectly spells out what we stand for. I actually went into politics because I saw growing economic and social injustice everywhere around me. And that's because of neoliberal right-wing national policies and cutbacks. And our green and left-wing solutions are badly needed.
These are different local elections. These
both
are
national and in Utrecht. The consequences of the climate crisis are felt more and more clearly, and healthcare and education are facing enormous undervaluation. And with the democratic debate, as you've known, becoming tougher and more extreme, equality for all people is pretty hard to find. So GroenLinks believes that big problems like the housing crisis and the climate crisis, discrimination, inequality in education, they require big solutions, systemic change. And that means making radical moves, doing all we can to counter climate change by transitioning to wind and solar energy, because we do only have 8 years left to sort of change the tide and experiment with equal income policies like universal basic income here in Utrecht, by investing in education and culture on a big scale and making Utrecht car-free, ensuring urban green and trees on every street, as you probably noticed. So like I said, GroenLinks has been governing Utrecht for the past 4 years, and it shows because we're very proud of what we've achieved during this period. And I personally want to continue with our vision to make Utrecht a more inclusive, fair, and sustainable city. One of the things I love about Utrecht is how it's a green and social haven within a rather right-wing national context. And I think that is why your vote really matters during these city council elections, because there are definitely still huge steps to be taken when it comes to affordable housing and livable wages, fighting the climate crisis and social injustice. So to ensure a green and healthy future for ourselves, our kids, and their kids, to keep our city green and healthy and sustainable and inclusive, just vote left. And as you've heard tonight, there's plenty to choose from. And I really hope that tonight will help you sort of get a view of what's going on here in the local politics. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Maha. And if I had to summarize what came out of that for me, a green and social haven. That's what you want. And I really like that, a green and social haven. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And now I would like to invite the Partij van de Dieren, which is Party for the Animals in English. So let's get you spotlit and see what you have to say. Thank you very much. Ron, take it away.
Yes, hello, everybody. Thank you for giving me the floor. Thank you for the opportunity to tell you something about the ideals of the Party for the Animals. My name is Ron van Wonderen. I'm on the 6th place of the Party for the Animals on the list of candidates. Well, I imagine, of course, that you are not very familiar with what the Party of the for the Animals stands for. So let me try to tell you a little bit more about our ideals. So yeah, well, with heart and soul, we protect what is vulnerable in society. Well, there's a famous Dutch expression, everything of value is defenseless. This is what we go for. In short, we strive for a sustainable social society in which people live in harmony with each other, with the environment, and with the animals. So about Utrecht, I can say really that the Party for the Animals is the greenest party of all. We are most principled to protect nature, animal rights, biodiversity, and in the realization of a pleasant and healthy environment to live in for all inhabitants of our beautiful city of Utrecht. Well, the party has been established about 20 years ago. We are still a growing party. We have currently 2 seats in the Utrecht Municipal Council, 6 seats in National Parliament, and we are also represented in the European Parliament. And according to the polls, our number of voters is still growing. So we are a growing party. Well, what is central in the approach of the party? Well, that is that we strive for a society in which the long-term well-being is guaranteed. We put ecological and social growth and prosperity on the agenda, instead of just economic growth and short-term interests. So you understand that an important goal of our party is agenda setting, as we stand for a healthy environment with clean air and water. Our party is really needed to keep these precious issues on the agenda of the municipality. And of course, we will monitor if all the good intentions are really carried out. Well, let's say some main topics for the next 4 years. Of course, the city of Utrecht has to recognize the climate and nature crisis, and we have to be climate neutral in 2030 at the latest. We have to limit the growth of the city of Utrecht. Utrecht is growing too fast, and that is to the expenses of the quality of life in the city. This city is not built for such a fast growing. We have to protect nature. We have to refrain from using poison. We have to make the streets, the gardens, and the roofs greener. We have to support biodiversity of plants, herbs, bees, butterflies throughout the whole of the city. We have to do everything to make housing affordable and comfortable. There's no place in this city for slumlords and speculators. Of course, we have to cherish inclusivity and to tackle discrimination and racism, so everyone in the city can fully be themselves. I'm almost finished. We have to prioritize cyclists, pedestrians, and sustainable modes of public transport over facilitating car traffic. And we have to make plans for our city instead of for residents. We have to do it together with them in participation and collaboration. So, well.
Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you. I cut in there because I'm trying to keep it fair that everyone gets the same amount of time. That was fantastic. Thank you very much. And if I have to summarize it, I'm just going to go back to one of your first sentences. We protect what is vulnerable in society. So there you go. A lot more than that. But of course, that was just in a nutshell. Thank you very much, Ron. Really appreciate that. And we're going to go to I love the name of this, the Pirate Party, the Piratenpartij. And this is Saskia Soller. Thank you, Saskia.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, thank you for hosting this evening. And good evening for everybody who's listening. My name is Saskia Soller, and I'm the leading candidate of the Pirate Party in Utrecht. The Pirate Party is the biggest political movement in the world, with parties situated in 45 countries around the world. Pirate Party supports civil rights, direct democracy, including e-democracy, reform of copyright and patent law, free sharing of knowledge, open content, information privacy, transparency, freedom of information, free speech, and anti-corruption. Now, this all sounds great, but how do we translate our beliefs into what we want for Utrecht? We believe it's time for a new party in Utrecht, not a protest party, but an improvement party. A party with substantive knowledge, involvement, and ideals that ensure that you can and may be yourself. We stand for a municipality where everyone who wants can get involved, where a person who dares to express themselves will be heard. Sorry. We want to be a city that ensures that its residents get all the opportunities they deserve. This starts with good affordable housing, and sustainable and climate responsible constructions is what Utrecht needs. An Utrecht with transparency and privacy, where personal data is safe and government data accessible to everyone. We make policy based on science, not on the wishes of large companies and investors. Utrecht is a social municipality where we take care of each other. The municipality must reward volunteer work to keep the city alive. We want to give residents back their confidence in politics, but especially in each other again. Living together and working together for a fair Utrecht. And that's our slogan. If you want to know more, we have our election manifesto in English. I already put it in the chat, but you can find it on our website. And we made an audio book of our manifesto. It's in Dutch, but we subtitled in different languages. Right now it's subtitled 5 different languages. If you need another language, you can always contact us and we can subtitle that one. So thank you very much.
That was lovely. Thank you very, very much, the Pirate Party. And also thanks for sticking to the time there. That was great. It was very difficult to summarize what I would say in a few words. I just wrote civil rights, freedom of information, free speech. I know it's a lot more than that, but those are the things that stuck out for me. And yeah, fantastic. So thank you very, very much, Saskia. Now we're going to go on to the next party, and that is the PVDA, which is the, would you say Workers' Party in English? Labour Party, sorry. I suppose would be the direct translation. Yes. And Ilse Rijmakers, thank you and welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes, my name is Ilse, or Ilse in German. It's because I have a German mother and a Dutch father. I also lived periods abroad myself, so I know a bit how it feels like to grow up in a multilingual, multicultural context. So welcome in Utrecht, and I'm very glad you're voting. My mother is also allowed to vote on the local elections, not the national elections, but I know how important it is for internationals to vote then. I'm a candidate indeed for the Partij van de Arbeid. It's a Dutch Labour Party. That's of course part of an international movement from the very start already with a long tradition. And there are many things I'd like to tell you about our social democratic ideas in Utrecht, but I focused on 2 tonight. First of all, affordable housing. That's almost non-existent in Utrecht. It's increasingly difficult to find good housing and to pay the rent every month. And this is only getting worse with high energy prices and also the threat of a war in Eastern Europe. And some parties say about these high housing prices, well, that's the market. But it doesn't have to be like that. Affordable housing is a political choice, we think. And the local government, if we are willing to intervene in the market, we can do more about this. For example, to invest in social housing. In the last 8 years, this has hardly happened. And at this moment, some people make huge profits at the expense of many. The housing shortage and high prices are affect a lot of people in Utrecht, but in particular also the internationals like you who come to Utrecht need housing because you have no other place to stay. And let's not forget, housing, in Dutch we say a roof over your head, it's a right, not a privilege. And secondly, I'm very much worried about the increasing inequality in Utrecht. Utrecht is a wealthy city, but 1 in 8 children grows up in poverty. And too many people have a low income or debts or live in poor health. And maybe you don't see it always if you walk through Utrecht because it's a beautiful city, but I could give you many more examples of inequality. And again, it doesn't have to be like that. Inequality is a political choice. We need to do more and better to fight the huge inequality. So for example, the PvdA wants better poverty schemes, combat low literacy, and create more jobs for people who are long-term unemployed. And the last thing I like to say, and what's good to know for you, in the last 8 years, the PvdA local here in Utrecht wasn't part of the local government. So if you want to do more in affordable housing and fight against inequality, vote PvdA, because together, and it's our slogan, Utrecht weer voor iedereen. So Utrecht again for everyone. That's what I wanted to say. I will send my email in the chat. And if you have more questions, please don't hesitate to contact me.
Thank you very, very much, Ilse. So Utrecht for everyone again. Utrecht again for everyone, I wrote down. Affordable housing and equality. So that is what the PvdA or the Dutch Labour Party stands for. Thank you very, very much. And now we're going to have an introduction from the next party, which is the Socialists Utrecht. And that is Agatha. Hey.
Hello.
And welcome.
Okay, hello, everyone. So my name is Agatha Troost, and I'm number 4 on the list of Socialist Utrecht. I'm actually kind of an expat or an immigrant myself, because I have a Dutch father, but I grew up in Warsaw, Poland, and I moved to the Netherlands when I was 18 in 2012, and I moved to Utrecht for my studies. And now I'm doing a PhD in Delft, but I still live in Utrecht. So I've been living here for 10 years. I've also been politically active here in for many years. And now I'm part of or active for Socialist Utrecht. So what is Socialist Utrecht? We're an initiative of socialists from different backgrounds. So we have people with quite a lot of experience in other parties, also for the municipality council. Oh, yeah, I didn't start my timer, but I hope it's, I will try to speak only for 3 minutes. But also people who just joined in the last few months, simply motivated by our political goals. And what are the goals? I think, like, looking from the left wing, we're probably the most radical group which is here tonight, because yeah, many of the other parties mentioned systemic change, for example, in order to combat climate change. But in our case, yeah, we really want to totally change the economic system into something collaborative, socialist, shared ownership of means of production, which we think is really necessary if we want to permanently solve this sort of crisis that you keep seeing in the recent years. So also the housing crisis, which is very obvious in Utrecht, but also the climate crisis, which is more and more scary with the storms we've been seeing. And we see that the reforms that are meant to be introduced within the current system are really not enough, because we still have these big companies which basically influence the government and do whatever they want. And how do we want to achieve this huge systemic change? On the democratic way, so through elections, but obviously just winning the elections is not enough. We also want to build basically a huge party movement involving a lot of activities, also cultural activities, involving a lot of people. So yeah, if you are convinced by what I'm saying right now, if you like the ideas, then also please contact me. I already sent the link to the website, but I can also send my email or, I don't know, phone number, because we're very excited for people to speak to us. And for us, these elections, local elections, are also a chance to promote our political views, which you don't usually hear in the mainstream, but also, of course, to campaign for a better Utrecht, for a healthier city, for a city with less segregation, less discrimination, more solidarity between people, more affordable housing. And I wrote down a couple of points from our program, and I will try to focus on the ones which should be the most relevant for internationals living in Utrecht. So firstly, like we really want to address the housing crisis, want to limit rent increases, build much more social housing. So our program is very radical about it. We want 70% social housing in new projects, because you see right now that you have certain rules, but then what you end up having is that housing companies, developers, they demolish existing social housing, and in place of that, they build new buildings with only maybe 20% social housing, and then the rest is actually too expensive for many people in Utrecht. And that translates to a lot of housing problems also for students, especially for international students who literally have to stay at hostels or sleep in tents. And we also want to introduce controls of housing quality, because you see a lot of people renting out these tiny flats or tiny studio apartments in which you can't really live well. We also have climate change related plans on this city scale. So of course, we want a much better public transport. The public transport network in Utrecht right now is not really efficient with everything going through Utrecht Central. We want to support better isolation of housing. So now they're quite badly isolated. And we want to introduce more education about climate in schools, and also make sure there's enough biodiversity in the city. When it comes to segregation, discrimination, integration of people in Utrecht, something we really want is a better and more accessible language education, also education in general, but especially language education, because maybe if you try to learn Dutch, then you realize that actually it's not that easy to find a good language course in Dutch. And especially if you want to actually learn also for a maybe citizenship test, then a lot of this Dutch language education is privatized, really bad quality, really expensive. So we actually want to make it public again and bring it to sort of ergo say. So it's a type of a school. It used to be like that in the past, and it was much more effective and better quality of teaching Dutch than what we have right now. And we also want to have stricter controls of companies which might discriminate against people based on their background. So unfortunately, you also see that happening. And when it comes to like everyday life in the city, we want a healthy and creative city. So we want more accessible healthcare with more local places where you can go to get your healthcare. We want to make sure there's enough urban green all over the city, because now, people are calling maybe for building houses where you right now have urban green, but that's not really a solution. It just creates in some districts a very unhealthy living environment. So we want to make sure it's very healthy for both people and animals actually, and also a rich cultural life with a lot of support for local artists, local musicians, and also free entry to museums, which are now very expensive. We also have democratic demands. So we want all the meetings and protocols of the city council to be open to the public. We want the city council to work together with local inhabitants when it comes to rebuilding certain districts, making new roads, new urban plans, etc. And we want to
so much. You've doubled your time there, so I'm going to cut in.
Okay.
You've got so much to say, but I'll hopefully with address the questions, and feel free to put more in the chat. But that's been 6 minutes already, so I just decided to cut in to give everyone else a chance. So thank you so much, Agatha. I really appreciate that. If I have to summarize, I would say that you really want your socialists of different background that want to tackle the housing and the climate crisis, amongst other things, of course. Thank you so much. I'm going to move to the next candidate just in the interest of time. So I'd like to invite student and starter Remy to the stage. Please tell us about yourself. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Remy from Student and Starter, and I hope you've not all fallen asleep, not because the other parties are not interesting, but I get that it's a really long evening and that we are all a little bit done with maybe online. So I get that totally. So first I have a little video. Are you all seeing this? Yeah, perfect.
Yes, we are.
Lef.
Durf.
En ambitie.
Dat is waar Student en Starter voor staat.
We veroverden in 2014 een plek in de gemeenteraad voor jonge Utrechters.
Wat hebben we allemaal al gedaan?
Goedkoper wonen voor starters.
Meer studentenwoningen gebouwd. Mentaal en seksueel welzijn op de politieke agenda. Een culturele nachtvisie in de maak.
En nog veel meer.
Wij geloven in een inclusiever,
Groener.
Socialer.
Gezelliger. Innovatiever. Duurzamer. Eerlijker. Bruisender.
En creatiever Utrecht.
We zijn een team van jonge progressieve Utrechters die al 8 jaar lang mooie dingen voor elkaar krijgen in de gemeenteraad.
We willen vooruit. We willen verandering en vernieuwing. Jij ook?
Dat vraagt om actie.
En een frisse blik.
Dat vraagt om een partij van jonge aanpakkers die buiten de gebaande paden durven te gaan.
Student en starter. Een partij met lef.
Uit liefde voor Utrecht.
Stem voor nieuwe energie.
Stem student en starter.
Yeah, so that was our introduction video, and now I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Remy. I'm a master's student in international law and professional translation, and I've also lived in France and in Sicily. So I get it's really, really awesome that you are all here tonight and like getting more information about Dutch politics. I think that's really, really awesome. So my party is Student and Starter. We are a young, progressive and local party, which means that we are not a national party and that we are in a way a lot more detached from national obligations from national parties. And we've been in the council for 8 years already. So we are young, yes, but we are also really, really serious. And we believe that internationals enrich the city with their diverse backgrounds and their culture. And our party slogan is Vote for New Energy. And I believe that internationals fit perfectly in that frame. So we are all students or starters, and that means that we are people who are just beginning in the job market, and we are looking for a space to live. So it's really safe to say that we are the #1 party for housing and facilities and sports. But we do want to do this in a sustainable way. So we are also like progressive left. And for internationals, we've put in a lot of effort to make information more available at the website for the city of Utrecht. So, and we've put in a lot of effort to prevent those horror stories that we've all seen in the news, where some international students were living on the streets. So we really want to prevent these kind of situations and unsafe situations for internationals because they are more vulnerable. Even more vulnerable than Dutch people trying to access the Dutch market, which is already really hard. And another point is that we want the city of Utrecht to provide more language courses in Dutch as well, because just speaking English, like a lot of Dutch people, of course, speak English, but it's a nice way to integrate fully into the Utrecht society. And another key point is that we want the city to be vibrant. So more nightlife, more cafes, a terrain for festivals, because we really think that the city of Utrecht is big enough of a city to start facilitate these more open spaces for all sorts of events. And right now it's kind of small and it's getting really, really busy. So that's a few of our points, and I'm going to keep it short because I think there's some more parties. And I think I'm already on my 3 minutes, right? Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And I hope everybody enjoyed seeing the film as much as I did, because I'm sure everyone was recognizing little bits of Utrecht there. That was fantastic. Thank you. A party with guts. Vote for new energy. That's what I've written down for Student and Starter. Thank you so much. And now we're going to go to Volt. I'd like to invite Charlotte to come and introduce herself. Charlotte, welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Charlotte Passier, or Charlotte, you can say it like that as well. And I'm the second candidate on the list for Volt Utrecht. So in daily life, I work as a business analyst at a bank. And well, I would say almost all my colleagues are internationals. And quite a lot of them also moved to the Netherlands, well, for work mainly. They started families here, sent their kids to schools, etc. And based on their experiences and also my own experience abroad, I find it very important that also, well, your voice are included here in the discussions for Utrecht. So please go voting on the local elections on the 16th of March. So for me, the reason to become active in local politics is because I worry about, well, a number of issues. For example, a lot of, the previous speakers already said it, the shortage of houses and the high housing prices climate change and the fact that, well, not every voice counts equally here in politics, and also on national level, by the way. So yeah, that's actually the reason why I went into local politics. So let me tell you a little bit about Volt. Maybe some of you already heard about it because it's a pan-European political movement. We represent a new generation in politics, and we believe that only a Europe that acts together can solve, well, our shared challenges like migration, like, well, now the issue with Russia, and also climate change. And we stand for nuance, optimism, and collaboration to strive for sustainable solutions. So let me give you 3 examples. The housing problems. We want to build more homes very quickly. We want everyone who wants a house and needs a house to be able to find a nice home in Utrecht. And we agree with Partij van de Arbeid that we as politics can intervene and to get affordable housing, and we would like to join you to achieve that goal. And then also, if you only build houses within the city, it will become more like 30% more crowded in Utrecht than it is now. So we don't only want to build it within the borders of the city, but also outside the borders. For example, in Rijnenburg-Polder. Then the second issue that we find very, very important is climate, that we want to be climate neutral in 2040. Well, sustainability is priority for us. We want to start as soon as possible on circular economy. And we want to take care for more biodiversity in the city. So we want to do this per neighborhood in close consultations with the citizens. And we want to continue on innovation in energy and waste recycling. And we are setting up a climate calculation room for, well, greater transparency. So our aim is to be completely climate neutral by 2040, the latest. And then the third thing I already said it, that I find it very important that all voices are heard within politics. So we want citizen forums, so that citizens can think together and really decide together, well, to have more inclusive and direct democracy. So we want to set up citizen forums where, well, citizens are asked to find solutions for big problems here in the city. By drawing lots. So this is the most inclusive and direct way to give citizens influence on, well, the politics here in Utrecht. Because we draw lots, we come up with solutions together that are devised by a cross-section of all Utrecht citizens. And then this is the difficult word, the municipality. Well, it's really, they really need to carry out the outcome of the, well, the solution that's given by the citizens. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Charlotte. I know I said Charlotte. I was full in English mode. I was like, I'm only going to speak.
Matter.
And then I called you Charlotte, which, you know, it's the English word. So there we go. A new generation in politics. A new generation in politics. That's what I've written down from that. Thank you so much. And now we're going to go for the final presentation of the evening from VVD Utrecht and Dan Hackett. So Dan, welcome to the stage. We're just going to get you spotlit. There we go. Wonderful. Welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you very much to have this opportunity. And I don't think that the VVD has really thought about their name and initials when it was come to alphabetical order. But yeah, there you go. Thank you very much to have this opportunity. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit why I find it really enjoyable to present the VVD. You were just making an English comparison. If you would compare it in English, it's somewhere between the conservative and the liberal Democrats. If you look at that, we're not that far right. So we're slightly more moderate. Although if you look at the Kieswijzer, it's a different story. I live in this city for about 30 years. I've only lived 3 years abroad, so I know the experience of an expert. I've lived in Dubai for 3 years. And therefore, I also know how important it is to feel safe, secure, free, and able to do and live the way you want in an environment that is appreciative and inclusive. And that's something that the VVD is certainly a party to establish that. There is a lot of international in my own personal background. I'm on a daily basis. I'm working in a cybersecurity vendor and responsible for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So I'm traveling around a lot. And everywhere where I come, I find there's a lot of great places on this world. But I must say that Utrecht as a city, it really is my absolute favorite place to be. And this is something I would actually wish for a lot of people. And as you've heard, many others have told it, we have a lot of challenges here. VVD is really also understands the fact that we have a massive housing project issue, and we are indeed also for building new houses. Rijnenburg, as just mentioned by my colleague from Volt, is one of the initiatives that the VVD was very much one of the initiatives and it's been voted against, unfortunately. But we need to create houses, absolutely. We need to create safety and a place and an environment where everybody inclusive can live. My personal situation also, I'm married my wife who is Dutch Indian, so I have a mixed gender family, mixed colored family, and on a day-to-day basis you realize that there is so much that we still can do to make everybody inclusive and recognizable. I won't keep you longer. This is what we do. We can mean a lot. We're very pragmatic. We do understand that business has to be done. And I really indeed urge everybody, please vote the 16th in any case. And if you want to know more, we're always open to answer questions. Vote VVD, please.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much, Dan. Really appreciate that. So for an environment which is inclusive and recognizable, that's the keywords I wrote down there. And I hope I've managed to summarize everybody's keywords really well. I found that absolutely fascinating, and I've made a lot of notes, and I hope all of you have at home as well, because I think there were some really, really interesting insights to see there. We could see what was really important for each of the parties. What I'd like to do now is invite some questions from the floor. I have one already I'm going to ask to speak their questions. I'm going to ask you to unmute, and that is Everton Jane. And in the meantime, if any of you have some questions, feel free to either put your hand up. You can use the reaction button. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the reaction button with a little smiley face. You can put your hand up if you have a question, or feel free to pop your question in the chat, and we will then invite people by name to unmute and ask a question. So that's fantastic. Darla's here helping me as well to keep an eye on who's asking questions. But the first person I want to ask is Everton. This seems to be a question that seems to have already generated a lot of reactions in the chat. So I'd like to welcome you to ask the question. Everton, can you unmute? Yeah, I can. I'm asking you to unmute now. There we go. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think the question, I understand that the city has many challenges for different people living in the city. So I think the question is more specifically about the International School of Utrecht, because many internationals have moved to the city because of the school. And the school location has been postponed. The definition of the location has been postponed year after year. Apparently, we would have a location in the science park, but this has been postponed again year after year. So I think I would just like to know, like, what's the position of the parties regarding the International School of Utrecht. So 11 years ago, the city decided to have the International School of Utrecht to attract more internationals and more companies, but it has not provided the right accommodation for the school. And yeah, I would just like to understand better the position of the parties in regards to the International School of Utrecht, if possible. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for your question. And I see a few hands going up to answer. So I'm going to invite the answer, first of all, from Christian Uni, please.
Hi, thank you ever so much for this question. I know it's a very big question, and of course a very understandable question. As I only found out very recently is that last night there was a committee meeting on this very topic based on the petition parents from this school have put forward. And I know it has been a very lengthy and a very daunting process over the last couple of years. I believe starting or taking off in 2011, building on till 14, 18, and now with perhaps some promising prospects of having an own proper building. I just reviewed the answers in the chat box, and I'm very much interested to dive into the matter, perhaps on another instance, or perhaps if it should be dealt with now, that's fine too. But in short, the Christian Union supports the outcome of the meeting last night, that we support the building of a new facility for the ISU. And well, that's in short our position.
Fantastic, thank you very, very much. And I'm going to ask Odak to also, he had his hand up as well. I'm also going to ask to also answer this. You want to answer this question as well, right, Odak?
Yeah, sure. I just, because I'm very new, like I said, I'm very new into understanding how the policy of Utrecht works as a biennial. And I keep on saying this very, very, very vividly. If you hear from what they're saying about ISU, it has been there for a while, this question of giving it a permanent place. And like I say, that has always been dodged. And during political time, it's again up on the air. And then we're talking about it as if there is another story on it. And this is what BIN is trying to say, come on, stop it. Treat us in a more inclusive and really embrace diversity. These international people are also here. They're also here to stay. We cannot take their talent, and what we don't want, we push aside. People feel that, and that's what would try to, because I even for one time I was listening to all these parties and I say, what am I doing here? If these parties were saying what they were doing, actually buy-in becomes irrelevant. But apparently we are needed because there's a standpoint that is no longer polemic, it's no longer politics of just talking. It's about how do we embrace it, and I think this is where we're coming in, to just stop just talking and really embrace people. You cannot embrace their culture, embrace their talent, and when it comes to something just a little bit, you throw them aside and you keep on putting it as a political talking point. This is not what we want, and that's why we're looking at a point where we're thinking and we're really hoping that this society can change for better, so that we have this. We don't want to live on promises. It's not that we don't have it. It's not that we don't have it. We have it. The only thing is we're not able to talk our talk. And if that was happening, yeah, discrimination does play a part. And we are really, and if I hear some parties say they're even more radical than then I wonder. I mean, sometimes it's very interesting to hear, but I think it's also international people to really stand their foot. And this is time to really support buy-in and say, let's come together and build a better Utrecht. It's an Utrecht that will have everybody encompassed in it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Odak. That was very clear and very concise. And D66, Vanita would also like to answer the question, so I'm going to ask her now. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I heard, like my colleague from Christian Union, that the meeting went very well last night. I've heard also the update that in other cities, there's funds available for the new locations on the international school. And we're currently investigating if that will also be an option. I think this is a very important matter and it's very close to home, as my husband is British and my son has quite a lot of friends in the international school. So we're very much aware of the situation and we're trying our best to put our best effort into, you know, try to fix things.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much. That was fantastic. Thank you for your answer. And I'm going to go also, we got Gert Dijkse, who also wants to answer this question. So I'm going to give the floor to you as well to answer the question. Thank you, Gert.
Thank you very much. We've heard about this issue a few weeks ago, and it's of course very sad what's happening with this school to begin with. And of course we support, as others probably also will do now, the new housing at the proper place. But what I want to stress here is that this is an example, and there are many examples around the city. This is one example showing that the present city council is inviting growth too fast. It is focusing on growth, growth, growth. It is mentioned sometimes already by some other colleague parties this evening, and that is a part of the problem. If you grow that fast and you invite complete Holland to come over here and suggest that Utrecht will solve all the problems, by doing so, you do not have the money, you do not have the focus, you do not have the energy to take care of those people who are studying here, are working here, and are already having a house here or an urgent need of getting a house here. And for that group, and this is of course, it's nice that CDA, D66, GroenLinks, and ChristenUnie now are saying we need to solve this. But those are all the same parties who are responsible for this enormous growth and invitation to get growing and growing this city. So I hope also that this example will learn us a lesson that growing, of course, is good, but do it at a normal pace, at such a pace that you can accommodate all those new coming people with a good house and with good schools and a proper place for these schools. That's what I want to say about it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who asked the question there, answered the question. We're keeping track of who's answering questions. So we're going to invite different parties each time to answer the question. And we had a lot of parties there give their views. If you are a party and you have another view, another point to add, feel free to use the chat. You can put everything in the chat. We'll read bits out of the chat as well, and the chat can be saved. So now I'm going to ask for the next person to ask that question, and that was Susan Jenkins. I'm going to invite you to unmute and spotlight you and ask your question, please, Susan.
Hi, thanks very much for hosting this evening. Yeah, so I got a few answers in the chat already, but there's two very large competing goals that many of the parties have spoken about, which is affordable housing and trying to provide a roof for everyone that wants one, or a house for everyone that wants one, and improving biodiversity and green in and around the city, but also in the Netherlands in general, which as a tiny country, you really have to make your choices very carefully. So I wanted to understand how the parties, could be any of you, have been thinking about how to balance these competing goals.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Susan. That was a very, very interesting question. So how do you balance this affordable housing with the biodiversity? I'm going to invite, first of all, Charlotte from Volt to answer that question, and then I'll go to GroenLinks.
Well, thank you very much. So one of the things that we want to use is that local governments, they have priority rights when we have it about buying land. So what you can do at that when you have those priority rights is that you buy the land for the current market price, of course, but that will always be cheaper nowadays than when other organizations buy the land and build houses on that. So with this cheaper land, we can work together with corporations to build affordable houses. Then the second thing is that we want to make really strict agreements with the organizations that build the houses. What I said before is that we want to build partly outside the borders of Utrecht in Rijnenburg, and the most of the organizations that own land there, they bought it like 10 years ago against way lower prices than nowadays. So they have enough financial room to invest in sustainability, but also to build cheaper houses. And then the last thing, and I will not make myself popular with this, but probably, is that we think that the persons with, in Dutch you say like the broadest shoulders, they will pay most. So yeah, if it's really needed, we will think about increase the local taxes for people who earn more money. I think that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you for answering that question. And I'm going to go to GroenLinks and give Maha an opportunity to answer the same question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Susan, for your question, because I think what you're saying is really difficult. I think most parties here feel sort of the two competing interests, which we're all trying to protect, and this is why GroenLinks very clearly says, we need to stop building outside of the city limits. These beautiful green parts that we all enjoy, our forests, places where animals can also live uninterrupted by humans, which I truly believe should be something we should protect. Just places where animals can just be themselves without us crossing their lands or bothering them, because that is a very important right that animals have as well. Rijnenburg has been brought up a couple of times by other parties, and we are actually one of the few parties that say we should not be building housing there, not only to protect our green lands there, but also to put up wind turbines, because we need to do everything we can to stop climate change now that we still have the time to do that. And also because there's plenty of space within our city limits to assure affordable housing for everyone, including in a bunch of space that's just left empty. There's a lot of housing that is just empty as it is right now. And I believe that our city government should be implementing rules to ensure that people can live there and use the space that we have right now rather than moving it outside of the city. So that is the way the Green Left views this problem.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Green Left, for answering that. And I'm going to come to the Pirate Party to answer the same question, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We believe that a house for everybody and a greener and sustainable city can go together. And then we advocate the construction of energy neutral and climate adaptive homes, studios and apartments with solar panels, and also outside of the city borders, like in Polder Rijnenburg. So that's our standpoint on it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much. And Student and Starter also had their hand up, so I'm going to ask them to answer this question as well. We're just going to get you spotlit 1 second. I saw the hand up, and now we're looking for you.
Yeah, I'm right here. Do you see me?
There you are.
Yeah?
Now when you talk, I can see you. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
Thanks.
there's a lot of people in the chat, so yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I already put my answers in the chat, but I can recap them. So I put in 2 ways. So one way for that is that we use the space that we have in a smarter and better way. So right now it's not possible for more people to live in one house. So we really want to change that. And for example, with 3 students or 3 friends or starters or more to live in one house. And right now that is not possible. And this is also really interesting for people who are retired and will lose their pensions if they live with their families. So this way, this would be more interesting. And second, we believe that we should look for different ways of transport. So we should look for less cars. And I know that is not at all what other parties want, but we want more bicycles, more greener ways. So trains, buses, everything. And we should take into account that when we build new spaces, that we should make less space available for cars so we can have more green.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much, Remy. I really appreciate that. There were lots of answers in there. If any of you didn't get a chance to answer that question and you want to say something more about this balance between affordable housing and biodiversity, then please, feel free to put some information in the chat. That's absolutely fine, because I'm going to go to the next question now, and I'd like to invite Leslie Homer to unmute and address her question, please, to the group.
Hi. My question is about the new Zonpot. And I'd like to first direct it at GroenLinks, because they're currently the largest party and supporter of it. But I would also hear from other parties that have supported it. So the city has failed 4 times to come to an agreement with a party to manage the new Zonpot. And also the surrounding neighborhood in Overvecht doesn't want it. What will it take to stop wasting money on this and consider other options, both for the prostitution realization in Utrecht and developing the Zonpot for something else?
That was a very, very good question. Thank you. And I understand that you addressed that directly to GroenLinks. So I'm going to allow GroenLinks to first of all answer that question. And then anyone else that wants to ask the question, pop your hand up and we'll come to you after Maha. Thank you, Maha.
Yes, thank you, Leslie, for your question. And I'm going to start off by saying that I don't know the specifics of this particular issue, so I'm going to be honest about that. What I do know is that the new Zandpad is being considered, just for everyone else in the Zoom call, it's being considered as a new location for sex workers to do their work. And I do believe that sex workers need a place to do their work, and that place needs to be safe, and it needs to be moderately calm. You know, sex work is not a tourist attraction, and the places we've put them right now, both in Utrecht and also in Amsterdam, is so central and so busy that we do treat them like tourist attractions. So that is why I personally do think that the Nieuwe Zandpad could be a good location. Now, let's be honest with each other as well. We haven't definitely decided on that location yet. The city hasn't either, and we do find it incredibly important that, you know, the people who live in the surrounding area do support the coming of sex work locations at that specific spot, because even from the perspective of sex workers, you wouldn't want to work somewhere where you know the neighborhood doesn't appreciate or like you being there. So the process, that is exactly why we have sort of lengthened the process a bit and have tried to really search for voices on this matter. But I do think that it is incredibly necessary to find a new safe location for sex workers to do their job in Utrecht. And thank you for your question again.
Thank you very much. I've got two hands up. I'm going to come first of all to CDA for Jantien, and then after that, I'm going to come to you, Gert, from 1 Utrecht.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Leslie, for the question. Well, I think it's no surprise, but we are really against the prostitution at the Zandpad in Overvecht. We think it's really unbelievable that parties like GroenLinks think that it's acceptable to have such a function in a vulnerable neighborhood as Overvecht, which already has quite some social problems when it comes to livability. So we think it's really a bad idea to put more and more money and effort as a municipality in this location for sex workers in Overvecht at the Zandpad. So that must be really clear. We really don't want it over there, and we think it's really foolish that we keep on trying it while the people around the place don't want it and have been participating for a very long time, and the bigger parties don't even listen to that. So for us, that's really an important point, that we make sure that it will not be realized over there.
Thank you very much for that answer. That's brilliant. And now we're going to come to 1 Utrecht to answer the same question. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree with Jantien Swinkels from CDA, what she said. I want to add one thing, maybe two, and that is that this is also an example of how the present city council with GroenLinks and D66 and ChristenUnie is not listening to the neighborhoods. The people living around this location of the Nieuwe Zandpad did not want a huge place for sex workers. It was huge because all the sex work should be placed on this spot, more than 150 in total. The neighborhood was in principle ready to talk about a smaller unit. We also supported that and said the better way to do it is to find some smaller locations, more spread all over the city, and find neighborhoods where they're more willing to accommodate this. But it is an example in which the present parties who are ruling the city are pushing it through year after year, spending millions of euros of getting it through, and not listening to a local neighborhood. And that needs to change dramatically. We need a real change in when you want a new development in a neighborhood, if it's housing or places for sex workers or whatever, or a school, whatever it is, first try to bias and to find out what local people want there, and they want more than people think. It's not only not in my backyard. People are very willing to go along with a plan, as long as the plan is reasonable. And in this case, the plan of GroenLinks and D66 was completely not reasonable. And that's the lesson we have to learn from this example, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much for answering that question. And I'm going to give the floor to one more person to answer the very same question, and that's the Christen Unie. Tabassum, I'm going to ask you to answer the same question, please.
Yes, I'm trying to be concise. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Okay, good. It is evident that Christian Union is not that much in favor of constructing a huge plot on this in this area to the likes of D66 or Green Left. To come back to Utrecht, that this council is pushing through and not listening and not partaking, it's a bit of a strong take, because the Christian Union, as we said before, is all about doing justice together, do it right together, listen, taking heed of what a quarter might need. And so I beg to differ, and I would like to have some proof of this strong point taken. If I get back to the first response I want to give, is that for the Christian Union, it's not a matter of plots or money per se, it's about human dignity and upholding safe regulations for this sector of sex workers, and also to prevent human trafficking. And that has resulted in a coalition and agreement that we need to uphold strong, good, healthy regulations in order to safeguard the safety of those who are working there. And that should be our first and main priority. The reason this plan has not yet materialized is because the mentioned requirements have not yet been met to construct a safe environment for these sex workers. So it's not per se an answer to your question. I might misread the purpose of your question, if it's really about materializing this plot or about the larger issues underneath this question. But that's our take. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate that. And we appreciate that this is also a very interesting, but a bit of a hot topic with lots of very, very different opinions. So if you haven't had a chance to give your opinion, then feel free to put it in the chat. And just for the audience to know, there's also a lot of comments from other parties in the chat. From the PPDA have already put their comment in there, and the Pirate Party. So please, feel free to have a look in the chat as well to just see where each party stands on these very, very hot topics, which are really, really pertinent to Utrecht. So thank you very much. I'm going to take a next question now from the floor, from the next person. I'm just checking, sorry, I just lost it in my head. Satya, I'd like to invite you now to unmute and ask your question. So I don't see you in what's the word? I don't see you in camera. So if you can turn your camera on, then we're also able to spotlight you. Is that possible?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. Thank you. Now you're spotlit. Thank you very much, Satya. Please ask your question.
Yeah, my question is that I've been living here for some time now. Both my children are born here, but unfortunately, I cannot send them to a Dutch school because there's always this question of moving away from the city for my work. So I have to send them to the international school, and the situation of the international school is so bad right now that you are talking about animals and environment and everything, but the best bet for everything is the children. And unfortunately, none of the parties are really taking care or even coming and taking a look at that street that this ISU school is situated on right now. It is next to Unich. There is another Dutch school on the same street. At 8:30 in the morning, you cannot imagine the number of bicycles, the cars. Accident is bound to happen there in that place. It's not just only about the facility itself, it's also the location and the way things are treated. There's no empathy for the children, and their lives and how they go to school and get out of the school. So this is my concern. Everybody's talking about the campus, but I'm also talking about the present situation, the safety of the children. that is involved, that's at stake right now. It's not just only the children of ISU, but also the UNIC and the other school that I mentioned.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much for that question. So we've had a question about the location of the international school, but this one really is more about the safety around the school, school campus. And so it's a slightly different question. I'm going to go to Veve Day because you've not had an opportunity to answer any questions yet. So we'll come to you first, please, to answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And actually, I've been assisted to take part in this conversation by GroenLinks. So you see that combinations are possible here, although they're the most odd. Thank you for that, by the way. Yes, we as VVD, I understand your problem. And by the way, when I came back from Dubai and I want to put my kids into the international school because they were there too, I also found it very hard to get them on and get into a proper pace. So I hear your pain. Out of personal experience, yes, that the traffic situation is appalling. I know. Actually, my wife, I bring her a lot to work, and I come through that, and I see a massive amount of traffic, and I see and that's something that VVD is very much in favor of, to secure safety and also enforcement of that safety. At the moment, indeed, it is interesting. We have 3 rather massive schools next to each other. We would really like to see, as we want to attract and indeed an environment where international and expats can live and also put their kids to school, to enforce that safety by enforcing and probably also need to put down there more police force to secure this traffic to your school, because there are some very dangerous situations. So yes, that's what we would like to do.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dan, for answering that question. I'd like to go to D66, and then I'm going to go to Saskia from the Pirate Party after this. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, first and foremost, children's safety is of utmost importance. In contrast to my previous colleague, to me, it's not about enforcement and to my party, but to prevention. One of our plans is to lessen the parking spaces within the city and to encourage people to go by bike, really Dutch style, on the bike with your kids in the back and go to school. It is not just a situation like the person who asked the question said and already established. It's not only international school, it's a problem that many schools have. So we have to look at the cause of the problem. Too many people still go to schools by car. And what does the environment look like? How is it designed in a way that these situations can exist, and adjust that? Then you don't need enforcement and you prevent the accidents.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Vanita. Go Dutch, go by bike. Let's go now to the Pirate Party, who had their hand up for this question as well, please. And that is, where are you? There we are. Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm a primary school teacher in Utrecht. So for me, safety for children is really important. As the Pirate Party Utrecht, we don't have a seat in the council yet. So these issues are not all new to us, but the majority of the problem is. I just saw in the chat an email so we can talk with somebody more about these problems. So I will email the International School of Utrecht. I just wrote it down, and then we want to find out more about the problems and what we can do about it. So I think talking is really important, and then they can let us know what we can do about it. So I will definitely email and make an appointment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much for that answer. Really appreciated, Saskia. And I'd like to come to Odak, who is going to answer this question. I'll be the last person to answer this question, and we'll move to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you, because I think the question is really well phrased. And I mean, of course, one of the things that you say sometimes when you live in this culture, bike is one of the most interesting culture, where you see every Dutch kid. I came from Kenya, and that's why I was born and raised before I moved to the Netherlands. And one of the things I realized, sometimes adapting to new climate is always very important. But though, last week I was in the area there, my daughters play football next to the area called Zwalu FC, where I'm also trained. And I had a conversation with old people around there, and they had like, this area, there used to be a lot of benches here, and there are no benches. And I was like, what do you mean there are no benches? When we walk, we like to sit down. Then I realized that the more a neighborhood is put, when there's some two distinctive things. And sometimes I wonder, just on a human sense, that why are these young old people talking about benches? Then you realize in some neighborhoods, and that's also boiled back to biodiversity that we were talking about. If we really learn to treat each other, also each neighborhood, in a more humane form, there could be less questions, because, and it's all back to connected. People think it's about the housing, it's about when these people are not able to find even a place to sit. And if you go to a Praktwijk, we're more like a better neighborhood, you get benches where old people can sit, and you go to just a corner of a neighborhood, which is on Crossroad, there is not even a bench to sit. And then indeed you realize it's not even just about housing, it's about home, it's about the situation around there. And then we hear all these political parties which are in power, and they see and when you ask them, when they ask, was there a bench before? They say, no, there was a bench, but it was removed. Then they ask, why was it removed? Because young people from this neighborhood are hanging on those benches. And then you say, okay, so what is wrong with young people hanging on these benches? And then when you go to neighborhood, which is much more up neighborhood, these benches are there and young people hang on them, but they're not removed. So you realize this double treatment, and that's what BIN stands for. If we would even look at the role of what discrimination does, it will really help us also to make a living setting for communities. And we can talk about this endlessly, so long as we don't poke at the problem, look at it and really come up with a way and talk to people, realize that all these things are interconnected. And you can take us on a polemic and you can say, okay, but it is not a small little thing that you realize that, hey, something needs to be addressed, and really we need to really start treating each other on an equal setting. That's what we stand for, and that's what we think this really Utrecht really needs. They need a platform where people can be treated equally and equal opportunity. And I think even beyond school, not just for international school, when you think of Utrecht can be home, is home, should be home, and that's what we are advocating for. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much, Odak. And again, another question which has brought up a lot of different opinions and lots of interesting answers. So thank you so much. I would like to now take a question from Chandrani, and I'd like to ask you to unmute and also turn your camera on so that we can spotlight you, please.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Now we can spotlight you. Thank you. What's your question?
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I actually have a follow-up question. It's about the maybe to the D66 party. About when you talk about that coming by bike to school can avoid some accidental situations, but the road is a car road and it's a two-way road where car can go and come at the same time. Starting or school is ending. Also, there are car parked alongside of the road. So only student coming by bike will not avoid the accidental situations over there. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And before we ask that, answer that question, because that was specifically for D66, wasn't it? Dala's also just going to add to that question as well. And then we're going to go to D66.
I would like to add to this about safety, because I know a lot of expats, and when I first came here 13 years ago, it was very intimidating to bike here in Utrecht. And it took me a long time, probably maybe a year, to really have the guts to get on my bike and go around. And gosh, back then, 13 years ago, we didn't have the busy streets like we have today. We did not have those delivery fietsers, cyclists, you know, and sometimes they're going so fast that, especially also even in the city center, and I find it quite dangerous. It's becoming an issue lately. So maybe if you could also maybe answer for the what Chandra, sorry if I to add on to that about the safety and things.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm going to go to D66 and then we're going to go to a few more parties on this one.
We'd like to hear from Socialists and
we've not heard anything. Socialists in Utrecht and PvdA. So we'd like to hear from you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Chandrani, for your question. Like I said, it's a familiar problem. My children are not going to school in Utrecht, but in Maarsen. And we have exactly the same situation as you are describing. A very narrow road with parking sites on one side, parking places on one side, traffic going both ways, and kids cycling, and moms walking with pushchairs. It's total mayhem in the morning and in the afternoon. Like I said, it's not just about cycling and walking. We have to look at the whole environment. And this is closely related, again, to the growth of the city. It's getting busier. So instead of looking at only one solution, we also have to look at what we can do to adjust. Like I said in my introduction, we have to manage the growth, which means that we have to adjust the environment, and we have to look at what kind of solutions we put in place around the schools to make the environment safer for all the people who go there, the children, the teachers, and the parents. So it's not just one solution, but looking at all the options, put them next to each other, see what works together, and then get into action.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much for that. And I'm going to come now to the PVDA. Ilse, I'm going to ask you now to also respond to that question as well, please.
Yes, you can hear me. Yes, I find it interesting what D66 said about manage the growth, because they actually, the party were in favor for a lot of growth in the city. And I think what is important that we think about this question earlier. What we see now that we have been growing, and that only after that we come to questions like, oh, what does it mean for housing, for example? It's the same with the international school. I was at this debate yesterday evening. It was more about the new school than about the temporary school. That was the discussion now. But there I also made this point. Think about this earlier as a local government. Don't attract a lot of people, and also only then build better roads for more safe roads. And it's also for housing, build earlier good housing for schools. But that in local government is in charge of the school housing. But then for the safety, I think it's very important also now that we see this growth in cycling, a lot of cycling and all different types you mentioned already. It's also good to look more into people who slower cycle, also older people, because I heard a lot of the people, older people are afraid to cycle in the Netherlands. That can be the case, so we need to do more there. And also for pedestrians, you say in English. Sorry, I was looking for the word. So give more room for pedestrians, for example, in the city center. So I really see this as the next stage. It's not only in favor of the red carpet for the cycles, but also for the pedestrians. We should give them more space.
Fun, wonderful. Thank you very much for answering that question. And now I'm going to put the same question to the socialists in Utrecht, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So the questions of issues with safety while cycling and also around schools. So I agree with the other parties who already mentioned that we actually need less cars in the city. So we should facilitate people parking further away and then cycling in the city, and better bike paths and more safer and welcoming bike paths in comparison to driving. But I think what wasn't mentioned yet was better public transport. I think that should also be a part of the solution, because not all children maybe can cycle, maybe they're sick, maybe they have disabilities. For whatever reason, I think it's important to also make sure that families with children can get around to different parts of the city easily by public transport, which is now unfortunately not really the case. And then I also want to say something about the specific situation of an unsafe environment close to the school. Actually, I've been involved in similar actions in Overvecht, because there you have streets really built in the 70s for cars, people driving really fast, a really unsafe environment. There was an action of local people living there in the neighborhood who basically together, well, they had to really campaign for it, but ultimately the city council, the wethouders, like the minister of roads at the time, agreed to rearrange the streets. So basically the traffic was made much slower and safer. And also on my own street outside, there was a similar action, also a petition of people living here, which was supported by my previous party, the SP, and my current group would also, of course, support all such actions. And basically the idea is that people who live in a certain place or whose children go to school in some place, they know best how to change it so it's safer. So of course the city, they have really good urban planners, they can have different ideas, but if you really live there and like practically use the street every day, then you know even better what's unsafe. So I think it's very important for people in such situations to get organized. So it's already very good that you're here and that you're raising this issue. But I think it's also important regardless of what the outcome of the election will be, because of course during the election you will hear from all the parties like, yeah, of course we're going to take care of the streets, we're going to make this place safer. But then after the election, suddenly, you know, there's the budget, there's a lot of things to be done, but you shouldn't just give up because it's not election time. You should be able to always get organized for improving your local situation and just come together with people who have the same issue, and then also collaborate with people in the city council to create a plan for changing this place so it's safer.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much for answering that question. And what I'd like to do now is come to the VVD. And after the VVD, we're going to come to the CDA, and that'll be the last one to answer. So take it away. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, so indeed, it is during election time that people do tend to have a lot of extra slogans to convince people. But again, bottom line is coming when it is indeed dealing with existing situations that are there. You need to have realistic and pragmatic approaches. And yes, it is indeed would be fantastic if you could prevent certain situations from happening, but they are there, so you need to deal with it. So look at it in a pragmatic fashion and trying to organize. The situation is indeed, when it comes to the international school, for some reason it's been pushed around. It is in a place that is very, very much unsafe and crowded with traffic. Yes, it would be preferable to do by bicycle, but indeed it is it's a driving road. So again, I'll reinforce the enforcement fact that as it is, and you can't just change the roads. You need to be pragmatic. We need to have more enforcement and people looking to create a safe place there for everybody to be able to get into safely into school and bring your children to school, and not and just wait for a solution that is years down the road. So that's what the VVD is: pragmatic, be clear, but also create a safe environment. And if indeed, unfortunately for the time being, enforcement is the way to go because there's no other measures, that's what we would then prefer to do so.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much, Dan. And now I'd like to give the floor to the CDA, please.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for the question on this important topic. I think we already, as CDA, we already addressed it many times. Also, if there were any elections, we still did it. And I think around schools, it's really important that road safety is really ensured. Also by street design, we can really do a lot. Actually, I've lived in South Africa for half a year myself, and there the street design was completely different than in the Netherlands. So I had to get used to it over there. So I can imagine the busy roads and the bicycles all around you in Utrecht. If you have only lived here a really short time, it's quite a challenge. So I think I agree with Ilse from the Partij van de Arbeid, P van de E, when it comes to that we should look into the cyclist part of the safety, not only the cars, and we should give more room to pedestrians. I think that is really important, and that we also make sure that irresponsible behavior also by cyclists, we make sure that it will happen less, because it can be very challenging to be part of the traffic in Utrecht. So I think also the street design, like shared space, we should be careful with that. In some situations it can work, but in others it can be a bit dangerous. So make sure that we have more paths, you can cross the street safely. I think that will also help. Yeah, so far, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jantine. And that brings us to the end of the questions and the end of all the whole evening so far. It's been really interesting. We've had lots of different questions from, really pertinent subjects such as affordable housing, green, sex workers, safety, cycling in Utrecht, and really specific questions to Utrecht. And I really hope that this has helped give you all an idea as to what each party can do for you. And really, I think the message that I can summarize from every party is, please turn up on the 16th of March. Whoever you decide to vote for, turn up on the 16th of March, go to your local polling station, because your vote will count, and you can hear all the effort that everyone's putting in to for this campaign, and all the burning questions and all the different topics that are going around. I'm just going to see if, Darla, do you have a last word to add before we go?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about the Rheinenberg, because I see that's a hot topic, but I don't think there's time unless people want to go to their breakout room. But yeah, that was something I was just curious about, because I've seen it being mentioned during this campaign.
Yeah, that's one question actually that has come up a few times in what was said, actually, Rheinenberg. And should we just see if we can maybe ask one person to just respond to that topic?
Actually just to explain
what
it
is.
What is it about?
Why is it such a hot potato? Go on, Jantien, you put your hand up very quickly there. I'm going to just come back to you. Why is it such a hot potato, this Rheinenberg thing?
Yeah, well, actually, it's a particular area in Utrecht. It's on the southwestern part, and it's completely empty. There are only some farmers over there, so to say, and this is an area we got from a neighboring municipality to build houses over there. So we got it incorporated in Utrecht with the aim to build houses, and our city, our college, our governors, they are not willing to build the houses over there for the last 4 years, and we really want to build the houses over there. And the parties that are now in order, so GroenLinks, D66 and ChristenUnie, they don't want that. They want to build the windmills and leave it for I don't know, but so there's a bit of a division in the city council whether we should build houses there or not. And that is a really big topic, because there is such a need for housing in Utrecht. And if we build in Rheinenberg, we can leave space in the city for green and other facilities. So we do not only build in the city and make it unlivable in the city. So that is the whole thing from my perspective.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This seems to be a really hot topic. So what I'd like to do is I'm very happy to keep going with this topic if people are happy to stay. I want to say, obviously, we advertise the time as 10 o'clock to finish. So if you do need to drop off, we totally understand. If the parties are willing to stay and answer this question, and I can see a lot of hands have gone up, then we were going to invite the questions now. So for any of you that can't stay, thank you so much. I'll do a proper wrap up at the end. If you can stay and hold on, we'd really love it, because this is a really interesting question. So I'm going to come, I saw a lot of hands shoot up. I'm going to go to D66 first, just because you're in my first vision, but I will give you all an opportunity to come to this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's true that the current coalition has not been very eager to build. And there's been a lot of discussions recently about that. We feel we've taken up in our election program that we actually want to build and combine it with windmills and green energy solutions. It should be a climate-friendly new neighborhood. And it's not easy to build one, but the climate crisis and the housing crisis demand answers. That's why we've come up with this solution. That doesn't mean that we only want to build in Rheinenberg. We're looking at both sides of the water, of the Amsterdam-Rhine Canal, to find solutions. What we're against, though, is that the inner city is going to be jam-packed with houses. We need green there too. So that's our stance in this right now, and we're very eager to work on that in the new period.
Thank you very much. That's fantastic. I'm going to go straight to the PvdA. We'll go as quickly as possible to get through some of these responses. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a bit unfair because I was put up my hand a bit lately, but I will keep it short. I can agree with D66 on this. We also in favor of building houses there, and also, and it's important because building within the city, within the existing city, it's not only taking up all the spare green parts we have in the city, taking over then, but it's also very expensive to build in the existing city. So this will never be affordable housing, what we can build within the city right now. So the Polder Rijnenburg is one of the few places we have left to also build more social housing, for example, and that's for us very important. So therefore we are all also in favor of building houses in Rijnenburg.
Thank you very much, Ilse. I'm going to go now to Gert van 1 Utrecht and ask you now to give your point of view on this one. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Housing is one thing. Probably housing might be needed in Rijnenburg, but there's a second issue. It was already mentioned, the windmills, the wind turbines. Most of the parties in Utrecht are in favor of also building windmills in Rijnenburg. We are not. And that's not because we're against climate change and all that kind of thing. No, we are a very, very green party. Maybe similar like Partij voor de Dieren or something like that. That's not the issue. But we make one exception because windmills are not good for your health if it's near housing. In Germany, there is a rule that within 2 kilometers, you do not make a windmill near a house. But in Holland, we don't have these rules. We don't, because some people want to make money. There are more than 3,000 inhabitants living nearby who are against windmills. They are protesting already for years. And it's another example where the present council, the city council of D66 and GroenLinks is not listening to people who are living near these windmills, upcoming windmills. To be honest, one of my family is an expert in windmills, and he's also saying this is completely nonsense. Windmills on sea, building windmills on sea is so much more effective. Building windmills on land is not effective. We have less wind on land, they're not very well used. And it's completely nonsense on trying to remain focusing on trying to have windmills in a very densely populated area like Utrecht. So that makes the Rijnenburg not only on the housing issue, but also on the green issue or on the windmill issue, a very special case indeed. And that's our point of view.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much, Gert. That was very interesting. And now we're going to go to Kristen Uni. I'm going as quickly as I can. Thank you. You are still on mute, so if you can unmute, that would be perfect. Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, good. So I'm trying to wrap it up. So with regards to Rijnenburg, the Christian Union wants to build on the long term, so after 2040. And before that, we will make use of sustainable energy like the windmills, as we've been an initiator of it as of 2001. Furthermore, within city limits, there's ample room for tens of thousands of new houses, and at least until 2040, we can build 3,000 to 4,000 per year without the need to use the green spaces outside current city limits. So there's an advantage there that there's much the mobility and it's reachable because of the station. There are already provisions, the costs might be lower. And in the Merwede Canal Zone, 10,000, Overvecht 6,000, and Leidschijn another 10,000 perhaps might be built. In Utrecht Zuid, there's an extra station close to Linette Koningsweg and also room for a couple of thousand of houses. With regard to the thing mentioned by 1 Utrecht that the windmills would be next to houses, I might not be correct, but what I know from now is that it has a minimum of 800 meters between it, so it's not directly adjacent. And there are some requirements for sound and shade to which you have to uphold to, and that is possible in Rijnenburg. And furthermore, there's a highway between the windmills and the quarters, and that might be even more so a nuisance and a health hazard, if you want to speak of that, for people who are in the future going to live there. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much for Tabassum for that answer. And now we're going to come to Bayane to answer the same question, please. Thank you.
Like I said, thank you so much for this opportunity that I share this platform with my colleagues, and I hear them, and I also hear what they're saying. And I also really like very much what PVDA says about they're interested in the housing and also interested in the social housing, and thereby stands very strongly, because we think like, I mean, we have also heard about these parties. They talk sometimes very well about the market economy. We need to let houses be built here. But the more houses are built in Utrecht, the more expensive they are. People are almost out of reach. People cannot even reach them. If you look at what people pay per rent for housing in Utrecht, it's just, they would say blackly, how would you say? They would say like, it's not normal. So you guys, what a solution that we keep on talking about? We keep on saying like, and you have been in, some of them are in a position to able, we need to build more houses and let people be. If you build a house and people are not able even to pay, whom are you building it for? I mean, we have to really start asking ourselves really hard questions. If we talk about how am I going to be, if you look at the student, in fact, we're talking about the international community. If you look at how much they're paying even to be in Utrecht already from the OVA, from everything, it's so expensive that we almost say we don't want to attract international people in this community. But I think it's up to us as a community to really rethink and really reevaluate what we really want to achieve, because it's all interconnected. I said, I'm back to the same story. When an old person tells me that he is not able to sit on a bench, and we're talking about biodiversity and an area in Utrecht, and we're talking about green. And then you realize that some of these areas, people remove bench because they think that neighborhood, those bench are being used for hang youths. And then you say, which kind of society are we living in? Should we start asking ourselves, sometimes it's not even about the housing, it's about home. When a kid cannot even get a placement because of discrimination, it all boils back to the same social, economic, including the same housing that we are looking. It's not that we don't have it, but there's some people who are more greedy and some people are in power. We only see them indeed. Somebody said after every 5 years, they come up with amazing plans. They put it on the table and people go like, yeah, this time they're the same people, they're going to be in the same power and they will not change anything. And I think it's high time we really start talking as people, talking to each other. Some ideas are great, but some ideas you go like, You can also make green. I mean, poverty is also connected to climate change that we're talking about. You can have some amazing thing happening, but if you do something else somewhere else, I mean, now we're getting the storm from Corey and all these storms. They don't come from Utrecht, but they're affecting us. So we have to really rethink also globally. And I think some of these things, they're all interconnected, and it's high time we just open our perspective and not put a host perspective into some of these issues that are affecting us.
Thank you very, very much, Odak. You did cut out a little bit there. I do hope that everyone got the main message though. So I think there was a problem with your bandwidth, but we got you back. So that was fantastic. Thank you. I'm going to go to VVD and then we're going to end on GroenLinks. So Dan, please answer.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I must say, and I love the energy that Bayane brings, Odak. So I'm very happy that you could join us and keep everybody on their toes. At the end, indeed, what is said, indeed, you need to be creating a environment that everybody can live in, a safe and a pleasant environment. And indeed, we don't want to have concrete jungles, because you need to have green and you need to be able to live. And the elderly should be having a ability to have benches. So if you take every little piece within the city, what you just heard, and going to put indeed higher towers, then the livability within the city will be more difficult. Hence, there is a place that is now being used, has been designated outside, where you spread out, where the prices of houses are lower, because there is a possibility, and we're just not taking that opportunity. VVD has been very much in favor of the project. We understand that there is a need also for green energy and windmills, but indeed all the studies around windmills, when they are closer, I'm far more in favor of the German option, that it needs to be at least 2 kilometers from housing, because they have a massive impact. If you look at those windmills, there are huge machines that you really do not want close to your home. So this is why Rijnenburg is very much needed, not to make Utrecht within where we are a concrete jungle and do create livable, spacious, affordable homes for the people within Utrecht.
English is really good. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dan. Really appreciate that. And Maha, we're going to come to you. You get the final word of the night. So what are you going to say about Rheinenberg?
Yes, thank you, Rachel. And I think GroenLinks is one of the few parties that actually does not support building houses in Rheinenberg. So I feel I should actually say something on it just so everyone gets all their arguments straight. Look, let's make something very clear. GroenLinks believes that we have two huge crises in Utrecht at the moment, and that is the housing crisis and the climate crisis. And we just like the PvdA and Bijeen believe that affordable housing is essential. And a huge part of our housing should be social, it should be affordable and safe. But we know, because research has been done, that a lot of housing can be built within our city limits for at least 15 to 20 years. So we need to be realistic about what building in Rheinenberg actually means. It's going to cost us $3 to $4 billion to get the housing actually done in Rheinenberg, because a lot of the land is incredibly wet. It is actually sort of going down. So it's very difficult to build housing in that location. But also, we believe Rheinenberg can be used for another essential thing that we need in Utrecht, which is windmills to sustain, to create a very sustainable energy within Utrecht. And we've heard it plenty of times in the conversation so far. People aren't very happy having windmills right next to their housing. Now, also on this, research has been done, and there are no health and safety hazards to windmills, but we do believe that there should be some distance between housing and windmills. We can't have it all. GroenLinks wants Rheinenberg to be a green space, a forest where people can come, hang out. We can have windmills where we can create green energy to make sure that Utrecht will be climate neutral by 2050, which is agreed upon in the Paris Accord. Thank you all.
Thank you very, very much. And I really appreciate everybody's engagement this evening. I'm just going to get the spotlight back on me there. So I really appreciate we really appreciate everybody's engagement this evening. It's been a very long evening. It's been a very, very interesting evening. And I'm so sorry if you haven't had a chance to answer your questions. I mean, I'm not going to close this Zoom room straight away. So if any of you got a burning question and some of you are happy to hang on and you want to go into a breakout room, we're happy to facilitate that. But there's a lot of stuff in the chat. I would encourage people, if they want to save the chat, you can click on the 3 dots at the bottom of the chat and say save chat, and you can have a read through and have a look at all the links in there. We have made a recording of this, and Darla will make sure that that is shared with the expat community. It'll be on Expats Utrecht, won't it? And it'll be on the Facebook page, and it'll be made available. We have a question here from one of the parties asking from Student Starter, can they get a copy of this meeting? Absolutely. The recording will be available and everyone can get to see it, because we want to, give as many expats the opportunity. I would like to say a huge, huge thank you. And I'm just going to read out all the names again for people that were here. We had Belang van Nederland, Rafael Klein, we had Bijeen voor ODAC, we had ChristenUnie Utrecht, Tabassum, we had the CDA, D66, 1 Utrecht, GroenLinks, Party for the Animals, the Piratenpartij, the Pirates Party, the PvdA, the Dutch Labour Party, the Socialists Utrecht, Student and Starter, Volt, and VVD Utrecht. What a turnout. We had a little bit of drop off of people that had to leave, but we had a lot of people engaged. We had a lot of questions in the chat. I would like to thank you all for addressing all the internationals in English, and what beautiful English we've heard tonight. I mean, yeah, really. I'm always impressed that Dutch people speak such beautiful English, and it's been fantastic. I'd like to also just say thank you so much to Darla for this fantastic initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you. But this is a great initiative and a great way to address internationals. Also, just for the man in the cupboard, Kev, who is our tech. And I have to say that Kev, he works with us with the Sounds from Comedy, which is a Dutch English. It's a Dutch English organisation. So he's actually sitting in England. And I just think you've given him such a flavour of the Netherlands and the Dutch, because we've talked about windmills, we've talked about sex workers, we've talked about biking. You know, I'm British myself, and these aren't really typical things in Britain. So it's been fantastic. We had a real flavour of Utrecht. Thank you so much to everybody. If you want to, you know, we'll keep this room open for a bit. If you want to pop stuff in the chat, you want to put some more links in for us to share, we'll share as much. There's been a lot of information coming in the chat. We've had links, we've had information, we've had texts. We're going to save it all, and we'll make sure that that gets distributed to the people who ultimately have a decision to make on the 16th of March. I hope you're all feeling a little bit wiser. There's a lot of choice out there, and I think it's going to be a very difficult choice. We heard a lot of very, very valid, very interesting arguments on so many hot topics this evening. So good luck. Turn up at the polling station. Make sure that you cast your vote, because it does count. I'm sorry we couldn't meet in person. I really enjoyed doing this event 4 years ago when we met in person, and I really hope that next time we host such an event, we'll be here in real life. And then I'd say, come on, let's all go get a glass of wine. But you're all going to have to go off to your own kitchens and go get your own glass of wine or your own drink or whatever now. But for me and Darla, thank you very, very much, and good night. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we'll just keep it open in case people still want to chat to us. And
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been fantastic. Thank you. Really, really good. Lots of passionate discussions, and it was fun, right? It was really good. Thank you. I think people are tired, so no one wants to hang around, but that's good. We'll just keep it open for a bit in case anyone has any questions or wants to say anything.
I would love to hang around, but I'm just pooped. I have to go.
I can imagine everyone's really tired, but it's 10:30. That was our aim.
It was quite intense to cover all programs.
Very intense, yeah.
Very well done, ladies. And sorry that you weren't supported more by the city council or whomsoever. But perhaps for next time it might be improved.
You know what? We didn't know what the corona situation would allow either. I mean, I suppose in hindsight we could have done this in real life.
Yeah, or hybrid.
Well, I did actually explain to her we didn't get the funding.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We didn't get the funding.
Yeah. Well, that's a pity because it's really important. So thank you so much for thumbs up for all your hard work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate everyone giving their time. Thank you.
Well done.
Bye. Thank you.
Slap
There's a few people still here.
Welcome.
Anyone got any questions? No, that's fantastic. All right, thank you. And just hang on to see if Kevin's okay. And then we need to save the chat. It's really important. So we'll wait for the last chat. That was good. Thank you so much, Kev. That was brilliant. We've still got Leslie and Martina in the room. Have they got any questions? Are you still with us? No. Okay, perfect. We do is we just we put them in the waiting room. We put them in the, and then
okay.
And we're just going to stop the recording
Stop the
now.
recording, yeah.
Perfect.